Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything down here. Yeah, this is Mr. Everything coming at you with another one of our Wargaming in miniature videos. What we're doing today is we're actually assembling an artillery battloid from Robotech RPG Tactics. Here are the instructions on how to assemble it, right? And we are going to be doing these missile pods right here, which are the medium ones. These are the heavy ones. Now, that doesn't mean, like in my previous video, you probably saw where I talked about the lasers for a Wargaming, the head lasers, right? And are you going to make a model with each laser and call it, you know, an A, an R, an S? Well, no, you're going to just make the model, and then on the tabletop you're going to call it an A, R, S. So you don't. I think I'm losing you. Okay, you're not going to make a model for each and every possible variation of your army. You're just going to make some models that you like, and when you put this model on the table, it could represent a medium or a heavy, in my opinion. I don't think you should have to worry about making mediums for your medium army or heavies for your heavy armor. Hell, this is not Warhammer 40K where you have to have exactly the right model, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is, let's zoom in so you can kind of see what I'm doing. But what we're going to do, this one will be heavily edited for time. So you're not going to get another hour-long video like I did on the Wargaming. I'm going to cut these pieces out using my squadron clippers. And then, oh, P.S. I did find my hobby tweezers, so I will be able to put on the very small pieces without getting the glue all stuck on my fingers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim them, clip them I should say. I'm going to clip them off this. I'm going to fix any sprue errors or any imperfections, and then once we start assembling, then we'll assemble. And now the clippage. Here we go. I'll edit some of this out. I just went and opened a window so we get some natural lighting in here. Other than my studio lights, I've got like, just looking at my studio lights, that kind of blinded me. Yeah, when I got my green screen for my streaming videos, the green screen came with 2 studio lights, which I have to thank my lovely wife for getting me that for Christmas a couple of years back. Alright, now that all my pieces are cut off the sprue, now I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I am going to trim any imperfections. And remember, as you've seen on previous videos, you don't necessarily, you have to, X-Acto knife skills are important, is what I'm trying to say. You need to learn that you can drag your blade across the surface to clean up any imperfections, but also every now and then, very rarely, you'll actually need to cut with the blade, but usually you can just drag your blade, use the backside of your, not the backside of your blade, but the, use the blade, but drag it in a reverse manner across the surface to clean up any imperfections. You can view that technique on some earlier videos. It works with pewter miniatures. It does work with plastic miniatures. It works with all, cardboard, everything. Dragging the blade backwards. Dragging the blade across the imperfection instead of cutting into the model instead of cutting forward with the blade, you drag backwards. Once I get all the imperfections done, then we'll start assembling. We'll basically glue, a lot of these pieces are in halves. We'll just glue in the halves together. Let those dry for just a few seconds, and then we'll attach them piece by piece, you know. You know how it goes. This is just assembly. This is not priming or painting. Okay, and I'll be back to you once I get everything trimmed. Okay, now that I've got everything trimmed and the imperfections taken care of, now all I need to do is start assembling it. What I like to do is start with the torso. And what we do is we put a bead of glue all around all edges so that it will seal it and keep it from having gaps. Okay, that went together perfectly. The back side of the torso with the front side of the torso. Let's go ahead and let that dry right there. What other halves are there? Okay, the rocket pods. One has a pin and one has a hole, so you got to get those lined up. That doesn't look right. You also got to make sure the left and the right one are the right ones, the correct ones I should say, because one side's going to have a larger hole. When you put them together, one's going to have a large hole, and then the other side, the back side's going to have vents, and you don't want to mix those up. And then also you're going to have the attachment point on the side. So these two are definitely the two that go together. So we'll glue the hole barely, and then we'll put a bead around the edges that make contact. There we go. Don't really have to hold it together. Gravity will do that work for you. You can just put it down. Now that those are two together, we're going to let those dry just for a second before we put the actual missiles on the front. We're going to put the hips together. This is the same hip that you've seen on all the other Regults. Very little difference. It has the pin and the hole, and you put them together and you line it up. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, and it snaps. Okay, snaps in tight. Glue all over the fingers. Everything's lined up. Set that down. Let it glue. Let it glue? No, let it dry. Okay, looks like the torso is mostly dry. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the left and right arms on to the Regult torso. These arms aren't really much of arms. They're just these little pod-looking things with an exhaust that goes down on the sides. There they are. And now let's do the other side. What I try to do is line those two up so they look pretty much the same. Alright, and those are probably already dry, but we're just going to set that down. What else are options? Well, the feet. The feet are options. Let's go ahead and put the legs on the feet. And you know the feet lean inwards. Okay, yep, figured it out. Those are where the legs are going to go. Let's go ahead and apply some glue with that. Now on the feet of the pod, the feet are wider, or more spread in the front, and they're closer together in the back. It's just they're kind of angled, pigeon-toed if you want to call it that. Okay, so it looks like everything that has two halves or two pieces are already glued together, so we're going to leave that alone. No, we're not. Rocket pods. I think they're done. you're close enough to being done for government work. So it looks like it doesn't matter which side is up because it's universal. So we'll apply some glue to the front side of the rocket pods. We'll put the rocket missiles in there, pressing and applying a little bit of, there we go, done. I'm gonna do the same for the second one. Applying, pushing, counting just a few seconds, 10 seconds or so, and then putting it down rocket face down, letting those dry. All right, so now, what's next? Oh, the hip onto the torso. That's next. And it looks like the ridged edge of the hip goes to the rear of the Regult. Let's go ahead and put a little bit of glue around the surface where the hip joint meets the torso. Push that down, hold it in place for a good few seconds because it's where the majority of the weight of the model is going to be. It's right there on that hip joint. Okay, let that dry. Just like that. Okay. Man, this thing's going together pretty quickly. Okay, let's let all of that dry just for a few minutes and then we'll be right back. Okay, now that I think I've given it enough time to dry, what we're going to do is we're going to put the legs onto the hip joint and we're going to do one leg. Well, I'll take it back. We're going to do both legs and then hold them together while I position the torso where the legs can actually be like flat on the ground or flat on their base, and then the torso be in an actual good looking location. Okay, let's, actually I think that's pretty good just like that. But let's put it on the base where the feet are, oh yeah, that's perfect. So that we just hold the legs together. Yeah, I apply a little glue, and then once I put the legs on and I applied pressure, I slid the legs so that they would be parallel here and they would fit flat on a base. So we're just going to hold that for a few seconds. Be right back. All right, it's been just about 15 seconds or so. Nothing super long. Now we're going to apply some glue at the bottom of these feet, and then we're going to place this artillery pod on the base. Apply a little bit of pressure on the feet to the base, and then we're just going to let that dry for a few seconds. Okay, and then we'll let that dry on its own just for a few more seconds. All right, now that we've given that a few seconds to dry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lasers, there's 2 autocans, 2 lasers, something like that, on the face of the Regult. Apply glue to all 4 locations because this will be pretty quick, I think. Laser 1. Just put it in, hold it, give it just a few seconds to kind of dry, and it does. Dries pretty quickly. Might or might not be able to see that. Okay, then the second laser. And when you put them in there, since they're on a ball joint, you can have them facing in any directions, up or down, left or right. Basically, they have like an area or an arc of fire. They don't always fire exactly in the same direction. So So that's the name of that tune. Lo and behold, we use the tweezers. To put the very small lasers in the chin. Actually, I don't know if they're lasers or if they're autocannons, but we're going to put the little ones. All right, we got the 4 guns mounted on the front, and then just moving it around to get kind of aim it the way I want it to be aimed. There we go. Now we're going to let that dry just for a few moments. I'll be right back, and we'll mount the main artillery pieces on the top. All right, those should be dry. So now we'll stand this model up, and we'll put the, we'll call it a missile rack. We'll put that on the top. It should fit right there. Perfect. Let's put some glue on that. Let's put this rack in place. Right on top. It fits in nice and snug. Just kind of get it in place where the glue will dry. Perfect. Let that dry because these missile pods are going to put a little weight on it. They might drag it down, so let that dry for a moment. Alright, that's dry. Not dry, but it's drier. Okay, we're going to put these missile pods on here, and they go on horizontal. Okay, so they sit in there. Ooh, do these snap in nice and tight? Because if they do, oh, they do. Okay, there's going to be an issue here, it looks like. Okay, these two halves go onto the pod really snug, which is good because you don't want them to droop. But it just means that what I just did was I pressed hard, and what happened is it came undone. So let's apply some glue on the hole. We'll press it into the pod arm. Yep. Yeah, it came off of the top of the Regult. Yeah, because it's so tight. Not a problem. There we go. We'll let the rocket pods dry, and then we'll reattach the rack onto the back of the Regult. I guess it can go either way, it doesn't matter. Okay. All right. And that's actually pretty good because sometimes, as you probably know, when you apply super glue, if you apply it to both surfaces and let it dry just a little bit, it becomes tacky. And then when you stick them together, it sticks a lot easier. So this is actually probably a blessing in disguise. Okay. Now let's put these rocket pods on to the back of this bad boy. Pressing on the torso and the missile rack to get that glue to... I find that applying pressure to super glue causes it to dry faster. I don't know if it's just me or if it's just, or if that's truly the case. I knew it just dried to my finger. Okay. Whoa, there we go. Look at that. Pretty dang sexy. Okay. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Let's take a close-up on that. Looks good, looks good. Now all we've got to do is prime this baby and paint it. Okay. Well, thanks for coming out and checking out this video on the Regult artillery battle pod. In some upcoming videos, what you're going to do is you're going to see, I'm going to have a video on flocking bases. I'm also going to have a video on painting the individual models, you know, the different styles of models. But I'm really looking forward to flocking the bases once we get everything started to be painted and stuff like that. So that's going to be a future. That's going to be a future video. Also, I don't know if you guys are watching the TV series that's on TV right now. It's the Sons of Liberty, which is about the American Revolution and some of the guys up in Boston, you know, like Samuel Adams and John Hancock, and the whole Revolutionary War kind of thing with the British and the, you know, the Patriots and all that stuff. Well, that's kind of, I've watched like episode 3 and 4 or something like that, but it's on the History Channel. It's really good. It'll be on tonight. But but I have armies in the Revolutionary War, and I have this one unit that I haven't finished painting, so I might get excited and go grab those miniatures and paint them. Now I've got a bunch of other American Civil War figures that I've painted and I've already done videos on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer them to this playlist and maybe change the title to Wargaming with Miniatures. So look for those. I'm going to rename them and move them to this playlist. Alright, well, thanks for coming out and checking out this video, and I'll see you on the table.